We're live. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome back to Earth School Journey, where life is the curriculum and experience is the teacher. I am one of your hosts and peer guides, Uni, and this is my co-host and fellow peer guide, Umi Steph. How you doing today, Umi?
I'm good. What's up, everybody? How's it going, classmates?
Hi everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is the
Yes.
middle of July. Uh August is coming up. We're actually, I think today is like the first kind of unofficial official day of Leo season. So, this is like my time of the year. You would think
Yep.
I would be like jumping for joy, but it's been a whole other story. We'll talk about it later. But we hope that you guys are doing well. We want to thank you for joining us as we have been, this month talking about and really taking a deep dive in discussing our oneness with nature. And it's been a really interesting month. I can't lie, I haven't gotten outside a lot into nature this month, which is very unlike me, to be honest with you. Um, I think that it's just this, I don't know, this time of year. Usually I love being outside, but I think this is just like I'm just in a different season of my life, and I'm just honoring that and giving myself what I need. I'll be back outside very shortly, I'm sure. um, but even though I haven't gotten outside as much as I would have liked to, I have definitely been, considering, mulling over, and just appreciating nature and all that it has given me over the past few years as I have really connected with it on a much deeper level than I ever had in my life. Since about 2020, these last 6 years, just connecting with nature has been such an eye-opening experience for me. And
Mhm.
I'm just really happy and grateful to be able to share some of that with you all, and hopefully to encourage people to take that trek outside and just see what nature has to offer you. And so, we like to start off our classes with opening hook questions. Umi, do you want to read through the questions for us?
Sure. So, how might your life look different if you truly believe that you belong to the earth rather that you simply live you simply live on it? Tongue tied, y'all. How might your life look different if you truly believed you belong to the earth rather than you just live here? Can you have a relationship with a forest, a river, a mountain? What if the earth isn't asking for more from us, but inviting us closer? I love these questions. That second question hits home because
Yes.
I have Gracie. And and we talk about Gracie like she's a human, but Gracie is a piece of land. And we have a relationship to her. My wife and I always say she's like the third in our marriage
Aw, I love
because
that.
we love to spend our anniversaries there. We were building the house and everything, but it's something that this land speaks to us. When we first bought it and we really connected with it, she was like, "Take care of me, I'll take care of you." Like I've heard that, like, really. And it was the first place that I ever, like, I put my feet on the ground and I could feel the connection. Like I could feel like roots growing from my feet into that ground, into that earth. And so my answer to that one is yes, or resounding yes. You can have a relationship with the forest. You can have a relationship with a river. You can have a relationship with a mountain, a piece of land. It doesn't necessarily have to be an animal. Animals are nature too, and we know that that's a thing. But plants, you know, my mother-in-law has a pothos that's like 30 years old. Okay.
Wow.
So she has a relationship with that plant. There's no other way that it can be. Like there's a relationship, and it is big and it's beautiful and it's, you know what I mean? And yes, yes, you can have a relationship. And we're going to talk about today how those relationships happen and how to build a relationship. I'll probably talk about Gracie some more.
Please, I love hearing all about Gracie. I mean, it's amazing. I hope and pray someday to have a piece of land of my own that I can love and cultivate and give back to. But in the meanwhile, I would like to point out that you don't necessarily have to own a piece of
Nope.
land. You don't necessarily even have to have a plant of your own. I mean, I have several plants throughout my home, and I will say that I probably have a better relationship with the forest in the mountain that I visit, and I'm trying to get better at being a plant mom. I mean, they're doing okay, but they could be doing better. Hi guys, I love y'all. Sorry. They could be doing better, but I will say that you can absolutely have a relationship with your local park.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a relationship with the local, with a stream, or a river, or whatever the case may be. I'm telling you, all you have to do is lean in. And yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm so glad you said that, because that honestly was the question that really popped out for me too.
Yeah.
I think they were all pretty good questions, but that one I was just like, yeah, like this is it right here, because this is what has helped me. Even my local county park, you wouldn't think, but once you're there just doing your thing and observing and all of that, and we'll go into it later on, but yes, yes, you can. You
Yeah.
can have a relationship with a park, a forest, a river, a stream, a mountain, and it can be beautiful, and it can be something all your own. No one else has to be involved, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, um, last week, again, we talked about our oneness through nature. We talked about nature's rhythms, living in flow. We talked about the seasons and how they relate to the cycles. We talked about resting, periods of growth. We talked about, letting go and releasing, and death, and renewal as well. We also talked about how nature is always speaking to us, and how we can pay attention, and how once you pay attention to nature, you have there's this like sense of wonder that comes up, upon you. First you start with, I think, like a curiosity, I'll say that, and then there's the wonder, and then the awe. You start to be like, wow, this is amazing. You see a bird, dip into the river and grab a fish or something, or you see a bird, digging up, or whatever it is. You see something in it, you're like, wow, and there's a sense of awe. We talked about how nature helps you be more present, through observation, through silence, through listening, and actually like connecting with the five senses, essentially seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, hearing. Always be careful when you're out in nature. Never, ingest anything that you are not 100% sure is safe. I will say that. But for the most part, most things, you can at least smell them, you can feel them. Of course, there are certain things, again, you have to be careful. There's poison ivy. So just be careful. I will say I used an app called Picture This. There's
Mm-hmm.
another app called Plan ID. I think I pay like $40 a year or something like that, and I can take pictures of plants. They're really good at identifying them. I can save them. I can go back to them later on and study and look them up on the internet. Maybe there's not, they actually give a good amount of information, but if I was looking for something else, such as their botanical properties or anything like that, I can, take that and go on the internet and do some more deeper research. But again, just always make sure you're being safe, because just as nature is healing and helpful, and she'll embrace you and love you, she can also do some damage. You know, she has to protect herself as well. She has to keep something for herself, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
kind of how I look at that.
Yeah.
Like, not this. You can touch that, but don't touch this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned, being careful because I think as much as I love foraging and, stuff like that, it's really important to know what's dangerous so that you don't, run into anything that's going to going to hurt you. So that, it is important. I think it's also important to understand that there's not as much out there that's dangerous as you think. Like
That's so true. That it's not as much as you think. That's why I said
it's not as much as
she
you
wants to
think.
keep
Yeah.
just a little bit just for her, just a few things.
Yeah.
She's like, don't touch this. You can touch all that over there, but don't touch this.
Yeah. You just
Yeah,
want to make sure if you're especially if you're going out into some woods or something like that, just familiarize yourself with things that could be dangerous. Leave mushrooms alone. Okay? That's all I'm
as
gonna
a
say.
whole, if you're
It's a
not,
whole other thing.
yeah,
Mushrooms especially can be very dangerous if you forage them, not because you're gonna get something psychedelic, but because you're gonna get something poisonous.
yeah, if you're not well versed,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't play with mushrooms unless I absolutely, absolutely am 100% sure that I know exactly what it is. And there's nothing that I can like confuse it with. Plants too. Know what poison ivy looks like, know what poison sumac looks like go out and figure those things out. And if it looks even similar to it, just don't touch it.
just
Just walk away.
don't do it to yourself. Okay? Don't do it to yourself. Don't say Umi and Uni
Right.
out into the
No.
forest and told us to start touching, tasting, smelling, feeling on things. We
Right.
didn't say that. We said
No.
be smart,
Usually,
use your
yeah,
discretion.
exactly. I know interesting story I have is um someone that I know from a herbal group that I was in um said that she was out and she saw some berries and she went over to the plant and in this particular group we always talked about having respect for the plant, asking is it okay to harvest some of its berries and all of that, and she said I went through that whole process, I felt like I got a yes and all of this, and she thought they were elderberries. It was poke,
Ooh, I'm not.
which poke can be it can be toxic if you don't prepare it properly. And she had some stomach things happen because of that. So just be careful. I think it's really important to just understand, and that is part of the reverence and the respect for Mother Nature, right? I mean, yes, there are plants out there that can hurt you. There's also lava and oceans and sinkholes and all kinds of things that are out there that are dangerous, but I don't think that we should allow those things to stop us from getting out in nature. I think now about like these young people today who are like, oh, there's bugs outside, they don't want to go outside because there's bugs. I'm mother to several of them. I don't, but
Mm-hmm.
also when I was younger, I used to be like that too. Like, oh, I don't want to be outside because of the bugs. And now, like, yeah, I don't like getting bit up, but if it's a toss up between getting bit up by some mosquitoes and going outside to see my sunflowers that just bloomed, I'm gonna go outside and look at those flowers. I'm gonna harvest my plants or my flowers or whatever I need to do. So you have to look at both sides of it. You have to respect Mother Nature and, you know, get out there and get to know her, because as you get to know her, you won't come into contact with those things as much. I feel like when you go out there in fear and you go out there and and you're not having reverence for her, you're going out there like reluctantly and not really engaging in relationship. You're just, you know, going out there in a judgmental kind of way. Then that's when you're going to encounter all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, so we are going to dive into our topic this week, which is essentially a part two of last week, where we,
Yeah.
just continuing the conversation about living our oneness with nature. We want to talk a little bit about going from connection to communion and building a relationship with nature. I feel like connection is essentially when you start to kind of like pay attention to nature and you start to realize different things. And communion is what's going to really take us deeper. You know what I mean? Communion is recognizing that nature is not just simply around us, it's not simply out there, that nature is in relationship with us, and as people, I feel like we have gotten so far away from it because we don't eat from nature as often as we used to. We are living in a
Hardly ever.
frozen box. I call them food products because I don't think it's really food.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it real, 1,000%. You know what I mean? So I feel like we've kind of lost the communion with nature, um, because we're not connected with it. We don't even observe it. Like we don't most people don't know the experience of going outside and, picking berries or picking apples or what I mean, helping grandma pick the peas or anything like that. They have taken us from being outside to putting us inside. Most people, like we said earlier, these new generations, like I don't know how they're like. I feel like it's gonna be like I'm getting like Jetson vibes, where you're like in like these weird housing things. Like you never saw them like really outside. You never saw trees
No.
or plants or anything on the Jetsons. Like I don't know. Like I don't know why that just came to me, but I feel like in the future, it seems like they're trying to take us further and further away from nature, And the fact of the matter is that, we breathe because trees and plants breathe. If it wasn't for the cycle of the carbon dioxide and oxygen, that cycle that trees and plants have, like, where would we be?
Right.
At the end of the day. Um, Soil, nourishes the fruit and the vegetables that we eat. Water, it hydrates us. The sunlight is feeding, and it's going through that whole I forgot what that process is called. Whatever the process is that plants go through with sun and all of that. Um, you think I would know? I just took the class.
Photosynthesis?
Thank you. The photosynthesis. I was gonna say oxygenesis. I don't know what I was thinking, but that whole process, the process of photosynthesis, where the plants absorb the light and it gets the nutrients that it needs, and you know what I mean. Like we didn't create these living systems. You know, we didn't create that, and nature is not just some background landscape in a film of our life. Like no, we need nature to survive. You know, and I feel like it's as we get closer and we live more in communion with nature, we start to really understand like where we belong in the grand scheme of things. We really start to understand how the photosynthesis process affects us and what it does to our bodies. And there's just so much that really leaning into that connection and eventually allowing ourselves to be in communion with nature can really do for us. And I just think it's so sad that it's like we're getting just further and further away from that.
Hmm. Hmm.
What do you think of me?
Yeah, I do, especially our food system, I think is the primary way in which we've been disconnected.
Yeah.
I think that the reason why we should be eating whole foods from the earth is to reestablish that connection with Mother Earth, and it's not just necessarily food from your garden, maybe you're not the one growing it, but a local garden, a local, I have this belief that plants grow where they're needed. And so if that's local food, that's food that your community needs. That's what is needed for your health, for your, spiritual well-being. I think I've talked about this example before about how mugwort just it seems to follow me places,
It's
because
everywhere.
it's everywhere. But I literally like moved from New Jersey to Virginia and it came down in my truck. Like it literally followed me. So, and there's just something in the relationship between you and the earth when you are eating from the earth. You know, you can grow at bonus points. Like nothing is like picking something that you grew from a seed, or from a baby plant. Sometimes we go you go to Lowe's and we pick up a plant or wherever. Um there's nothing like watching it grow and watching it ripen on the vine, and picking it and eating it. My garden hasn't done very great this year, but my compost pile has more tomatoes than anything else. And let me tell you the excitement that went down in my household when we found out that there were tomatoes that were ripe in the compost pile. And it might seem gross, because of what goes in the compost pile, but that's what our food eats. And so as long as you're washing your vegetables and, before you eat them and all of that, your compost pile may grow you some stuff without this greenhouse is 20 feet long and my compost pile is right there. And the squash plant that is growing in it has grown all along the back behind the greenhouse all the way to the shed wall. And the excitement that was in me when I saw that this plant got that huge. It's a 20-foot vine.
Wow.
And all of the squash that are going, I don't even know what kind of squash it's growing. Like it's just growing. But it's first of all, it always tastes better. It tastes better than anything you will ever get in a supermarket. Yeah. And what better abundance? You didn't even ask for it to grow and to just have it come up and just be there. I was talking about being careful when you forage and stuff like that, but when you forage and you know what you're looking for, like that is Earth just said, Mother Earth was just like, y'all need to eat. Here you go. The abundance that's out there and the fact that we pay so much. I mean, I spend so much money on food. So much money on food. I do grow a lot, I do what I can to grow as much as I can. Had 2 really bad years with growing because of weather. But and I do all of those things, but food is very expensive because none of it is coming directly from the earth. Everything has to go through a process, a machine, and it strips the soul away from it. It's like it takes all the life out of the food. And I'll tell you this much, when you stop eating all of that stuff out the freezer and you start incorporating more whole foods into your diet, things that are in the same form it grew out of the earth, those foods from the freezer, you can't do it anymore. It just does not feel right in your body. It will make you sick, whereas it didn't before, right? It'll start to make you sick. It'll make you feel disgusting and sluggish, and it'll muck up your, gastrointestinal system and all of that. So I'm so glad that you were talking about food, because I feel like that is one of the main ways that the majority of society can reconnect to the earth. You can grow something in your house. It doesn't have to be, everything. You can grow things on your back porch, your front porch. And if you can't grow, you can, strive to try to eat a little more whole foods. You try to buy more vegetables than you do things out of the freezer. And I get it. We live in a world where things are busy, and that stuff that comes out the freezer is real tempting. I know, because I have all these kids, and there are times when, the chicken nuggets are just easier. and you have to, but balance is important. And when you have a strong enough relationship with nature, with whole real foods, you will feel the difference in your body when you consume them. And there's other ways besides food, obviously. I think, you know, we need to really appreciate that Mother Earth provides us food. We really do feel like we have to go to a supermarket to buy food, but that's not necessarily the way it has to go down. Although I do understand that not everybody can grow food. I like, there's two sides to that coin, because this is how our world has evolved, our society has evolved. Not everybody can have backyard chickens. I have chickens, but I live in a country town. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't live in a city or anything like that. So I can do that. And it's not easy to look for free range eggs, or and then there is also the fact that free range doesn't necessarily mean free range. That's a whole other question. we're not I'm not going to jump on my soapbox right now. Um because I can. It's a whole thing. Um you know, but I think it's an important first step, is incorporating whole foods from the earth, into your diet, trying your best to get those things in there. And then looking at other ways, you're always talking about breaking up the leaves and smelling them, things like that. Just talking to your plants, or not even your plants, talking to any plant. I talk to all the plants, okay?
Yeah. I talk to the plants outside too.
All
Okay.
the time, all the time. I mean, I've walked past a plant that was like a bush in somebody's yard and be like, "Oh, hey, gorgeous." You know what I mean? Like,
Right? You're beautiful. Yeah,
you're
you smell
beautiful.
good.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
smell amazing.
Yeah.
And interacting with nature and plants. I think we talk about plants a lot when we talk about nature, but I just want everybody to understand, it's more than just plants. It's rocks, it's
Right.
soil, it's animals, it's all of those things. But just interacting with them like you would another human, you know, interacting with them conversationally, because they may not speak out loud, but they speak. You hear it. You will, as you develop a relationship with a plant, any plant, um, any piece of earth, you're going to hear it talking. We, when we go over to the Gracie, because we don't live there right now, when we get there, we like honk the horn and be like, "Hey,
We're here.
we're here. How you doing? Oh my God, you look great. Oh, your hair's a little long. We got to give you a haircut, and you got to mow, mow the grass." But building that relationship, it does something to your nervous system. It really does. When you have a relationship with a piece of nature, and whatever it is, a tree, a piece of land, an animal. I think that's why our society is a little obsessed with dogs. They don't realize that they need nature. But when you really form that relationship, it becomes a place of peace. It becomes a place of safe haven. It becomes a place where you can go when you're stressed out and almost instantaneously have that stress relief. You know what I mean? Like, at least for me, that's been my experience. We have a really big maple tree in our backyard, and it is dying. It is admittedly at the end of its life. But I can tell you, on a bad day, going to sit up under that tree and just connecting with her roots and hugging her bark and watching the ants crawl all around her, it can take me from angry and irritated to just, calm and change my perspective on the situation of whatever is going on that has caused me to feel some kind of way. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to when you were talking about the compost.
Mhm.
I think another thing that people, I want to say really quickly, I think we mentioned this before in one of our other episodes, that um, our disconnection with nature, it has caused us not to understand the difference between dirt and soil. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mhm.
So you look at compost, which is essentially soil. Maybe it doesn't smell so great, it doesn't look so great, it doesn't, but it's a lot of nutrients. It's a lot of good things going on in there. The plant matter or the food matter, whatever it is being broken down so that it can continue the life cycle of nature. And that's when you start to really understand the relationship of nature, and you go beyond like just appreciating it, which is, there's nothing wrong with appreciating it. There's nothing wrong with looking at a bush or a tree or landscape or whatever and appreciating how beautiful it is. As a matter of fact, I think that's like the beginning, of
Mhm.
cultivating a relationship. But really diving deeper, you start to understand, the cycles of things, and you start to understand what is really useful and versus what isn't. Yeah, there's a difference between dirt and soil. You know what I mean? The compost, maybe it's not the best looking stuff, but yes, if I saw something good in some compost and it was whatever, I would wash it off really good and I would use it for whatever I could use it for. And
Yep.
and you start to really understand these things. Like you lose that kind of squeamish or that whatever it is that make you say ew when it comes to certain things, because you understand this is just a part of life. And it's nothing nasty or gross about it as long as you're being hygienic and you're doing what you got to do. you know um I remember there was a one time I was getting watermelon and I was juicing like literally the whole watermelon, the rind and everything. And someone was like, "You're gonna throw the whole thing, like you're not gonna cut it, just do the inside." And I'm like, "No, I'm washing it off just like you wash a cucumber or an apple or
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Whatever. I want the green and everything in between and all of that. I want everything in
Yeah.
my juice.
Right.
And I think for people just not really understanding that there's definitely a difference between something being dirty and it having some nutrients and you just needing to wash it off and clean it and and use it, work with it, ingest it, eat it, do whatever you need to do with it.
Mhm.
Um, I think that when it comes to again just really going deeper into that relationship, you start to think about how you can care for something. And it's another thing. I don't want to get on a soapbox about relationships, but I feel like we like because we're losing that with each other as
Yeah.
human beings. Like
Yes.
we barely want to take care of each other. Like I have a friend or a cousin or whatever. I have a family member who will see me struggling and not feel the urge to help me, and I'm just like, but if it were me, I would help you because we're in a relationship. We're family. Like I'm here to help light in your load. You
Right.
help light in my load. Like I feel like we don't even do that with each other as human beings. We've got a sense of disconnection between us, and
Mhm.
we don't realize like some of the things we do and say to each other. So yes, it is challenging to think of how you can uh, help, or how you can help, or how you're affecting something that isn't even quote unquote living. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, of course, you're not thinking about, am I stepping on earthworms or caterpillars or whatever? Like, of course, you're not thinking
Mhm.
about that as you're walking through a forest or a whatever. You're not thinking about that. You don't even care if you step on my shoes. You're just gonna and
Right.
keep going.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So I think when you start to appreciate and you start to understand your relationship with nature, I think that there's a sensitivity that you have to have overall. And that sensitivity, it has to kind of like it has to kind of like be in you. It has to be like a part of you. And it's not just like I feel like when you get to that point, it's because you're kind of you're just kind of like that no matter what it is. Like if there
Yeah.
was like a person on the street, you would help them. You wouldn't just see them struggling and laugh and point your phone or anything. Like, it
Right.
may be like an extreme example, but I feel like there's just a certain sensitivity that you have when it comes to nature or when it comes to life in general that makes you think about how you're affecting something, how something is affecting you. You know, do you need to protect yourself? Do you need to protect it? Is there something you need to restore or tend or like there's like this whole thing, but it has to be in you. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes and as a black woman, I'll just say this that sometimes it seems like certain races of people they'll care about animals more than they care about other people, and it's like we're all, like what the hell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
dog isn't really gonna like maybe they'll try to run for help if you get hurt, but they can't really save your life if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like a human
Yeah.
being could. So, I mean, it's probably an extreme example, but I just think there's a level of sensitivity that comes from being in relationship with nature. And I think that like it has to be extended just in like it has to just be a part of you. And I understand that everyone isn't open in all different ways, but I just think that if we were or if more people were, we would be in a much better place in
Mhm.
society overall, to be honest with you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea. And I think that there's definitely some correlation and between the fact that we're basically losing relationship overall. You know,
Yeah.
there's all of these points that we have written down here about relationship, about reciprocity, about listening, about gratitude. We don't have that for one another. So it's, but maybe it is because we've lost it for Mother Earth. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just the natural next extension, and these people who have these crazy relationships with their dogs, I mean, it's a little delusional sometimes. You know what I mean? And sometimes the reason why they have good relationships with a dog is because the dog can't talk back,
Ooh,
you know.
yeah.
Is it a good relationship or is it unhealthy?
Right.
Right. So, I think it's a good way for us to if you can listen to nature, if you can really listen and understand and um give nature that attention, then you can translate those skills to your personal human relationships, you
Yeah.
know. Definitely. But if you can't listen to something that can talk, you really need some practice. Because these plants talk. They just don't talk, the way a
Yeah.
human does. But as you get a relationship with not just even plants, with soil, with, you really start to learn what is healthy for that, what healthy looks like, what unhealthy looks like. And you're talking about the difference between soil and dirt. Soil is alive. If you pick up your soil and it's not alive, it's dusty, it's dry, it's dead, it's, you know, and man, what a difference that makes, because the whole dust bowl, that happened in the United States, that, kind of changed the way we do agriculture, although it hasn't gotten better by much. But this idea that we have to protect our topsoil. Yeah, soil is alive. We can't kill it. You have to pay attention to it. You have to listen to it, you know? You can't just till it and kill the organisms and the microbiome that is in the soil. Because I mean, there's a great documentary called is it called Kiss the Earth? I think it's called Kiss the Earth or Kiss the Soil, that talks about soil. Like, I totally recommend, watching it, because it talks about how the soil is the lungs of the earth,
Mm,
and it like filters carbon dioxide. And yes, we have, the trees are the other half of the human lungs, but the soil is the earth's lungs. It really does help to sequester all of that extra CO2 that's in the air. And uh what's the other one, the ozone. I don't
mhm.
know all the technical terms, y'all. I don't.
Right.
I know how it works. I just don't know all the technical terms.
Same.
But If you want to know, watch Kiss the Earth or Kiss the Soil or something like that. It's a documentary. If you put it in there, you'll find it. Um, they were so bad at names of things. It's so crazy.
I'll blame it on Perry. I don't care what anyone
it's
says.
it, it's all Perry.
I used to never have this problem. Like I was at work one day a couple months ago, and we were like taking pictures, and I said, "Oh, something about being a picture taker," and the young girl was like, "You mean photographer?" And I was like, "Yeah, photographer." Like, don't judge me, okay? Like I swear, like I swear to God, I didn't say it at the time, but later on I was just like, fucking Perry. Like I don't my language. Like I would never forget like simple things like that. And and even, there's, you know, I've been seeing more and more as I'm reading, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
literally is a symptom of perimenopause that you forget just regular words, and you're like the
Yes, things you've been
thingamajig.
saying your whole life.
Right. That I'm telling you, I think that's where words like thingamajig and
Yep.
doohickey and all that stuff came
The
from.
whatchamacallit.
It came from someone in perimenopause. So to all of our women out there going through it after you have
Yes.
been, menstruating month after month, year after year, getting up, going to work, taking care of the kids, taking care of the homes, taking care of your family, taking care of people at work, taking care of yourself, and doing your best. We love you, and don't let these people judge you or put you down because you can't remember a word. Okay, it's okay. So I had to say
Right.
that. It's okay. It's okay.
We
Look,
need
it's
a
a part
Perry
of life.
support group.
you know and here's my thing, like, the young girl, she was nice enough, but I feel like I did feel judged, the way she said it. I'm like, I feel so judged, but I wanted to say, just you wait till Perry hits you. Let's see if
Right.
you know what I mean, let's see if you remember everything, like, no
Yeah.
shade, but
Yeah.
seriously, it's not an
Yeah.
easy time. So if nobody else has compassion for us, I do. Okay, I do. So okay,
Oh,
back to our
yeah.
regularly scheduled program. So this is Earth School Journey. Thank you guys for joining us, all of our classmates near and far. If you're catching us live or on the replay, we want to thank our regulars who are always, watching us and commenting and supporting us. We do appreciate you, and we love you. And those of you who catch us on the replay, we hope that you are finding value, and we hope that we're sparking your interest, even if it's in the smallest way, to really consider your relationship and your oneness with nature, and we hope that it helps you to help others, because we're part of the world wide web, whether we realize it or not. Okay,
Right.
every
Right.
relationship that we have, we're influencing others, whether we have authority over them or not. There's influence that we have, and if they see you going outside, they see me going outside, posting my pictures, posting my time in nature and how it's helping me. Other people, we live in a society of followers,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and once they see that it's benefiting you, they're gonna be like, wait, they might talk junk at first. Like they may talk junk at first. Don't get me wrong. That's just whenever something's different, people will do that. But over time, people are gonna get curious. They'll be like, wait, let me see what's out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we hope that
Yeah.
we're bringing some value, and we hope that we spark something in you, or it helps you to spark something in someone else, because this is the only way that we are going to really continue to evolve. Like people think that this is like going back to the Stone Ages or something. No, we can appreciate nature in the context of the lives that we're living now, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
help take us to another level.
Right.
That's my true belief.
Right. Right.
So, um,
Yeah.
so our next note that we have here is talking about going from kind of like observer to participant, but I feel like it was, similar to what we were talking about before, just not really, being necessarily just appreciating or looking and observing, but really appreciating, or participating in nature, and just really growing something, feeding something, noticing the seasons changing, going out in nature in different times of the year, going in the same place and seeing it change over time. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Seeing it in different seasons and seeing the different cycles that happens throughout those seasons. It really, really, I'm telling you, I talked about it a few weeks ago when I started going to one of the mountains near me, and how initially I had been going in the fall, and it's like maybe spring, summer, fall. And then I went one day, I was just like, I'm just gonna go. I don't care if it's freezing cold. I'm just gonna go. Like, screw it. Like, threw my coat on. I had a sweater, a hat, a scarf, I had my coffee.
Yeah.
It was a little icy on the ground and everything. And I still thugged it out. And I was just so amazed at what I saw. I was just like, wow, it was so vibrant, a few months ago, and everything was alive. And now it's like, I think one time I went out, there was like snow on the treetops and everything. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm telling you, it does something, and I feel like it's it's not it's not a performance. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you really start to appreciate. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
you become present enough to recognize what's going on in the world around us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You get from in front of a television screen or a computer screen.
Yeah.
It's I'm telling you, it's been beautiful. So I feel like that's kind of like a similar theme. And I kind of wanted to move on to reciprocity instead of
Yep.
consumption,
Mhm.
where we stop thinking about what we can get from something. And again, if we don't think about this with our fellow human beings, like talk about being in community and relationship, like I'm really big on community and everyone doing their part, everyone sharing, everyone bringing what they have to the table. It's not about just looking for what you can get from someone, looking for a client, looking for a customer, looking for, you know what I mean, looking to learn
Mhm.
something for free. No, it's about us being in community. It's about reciprocity instead of consumption. Okay? One hand washes the other, and they both wash the face at the end of the day, right? And I feel like it's similar with nature. It's not necessarily, okay, what can this plant do for me? Or what can this land produce?
Yeah.
What can this river give to me? How can
Mhm.
I feel better? When I go out into nature, no lie, even if I just bring an essential oil with me, sometimes I'll just pour a little bit somewhere and, as an
Mhm.
offering. I feel like it's just something that I do. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Sometimes I have a piece of Palo Santo or a piece of sage, and I'll burn that as just something, or maybe I'll leave it near a tree. Sometimes I've done that. I'll leave a piece of near a tree as an offering. I've had little like crystals. I'm not as into crystals as I was before, but I have so into crystals for a while. When I go out on my walks, I leave a crystal somewhere, you know what I mean, as an offering. It's not just about what I'm receiving while I'm out on this walk
Right.
or this run, or as I'm, taking a leaf and, crushing it and smelling, and I'm like, wow, this catnip or whatever it is smells amazing. No, what
Yeah.
can I give back? But
Mhm.
the thing is I have that sort of mindset anyway. You know
Right.
what I mean? I'm like that in any environment that I'm in. And I just think that it's something that more people need to think about. Again, just the same way as I was speaking earlier, if you're not like that with your fellow humans, like, you're not really going to think about that with nature. You're just like, oh, this apple is here for me, let me pluck it off the
Right.
tree. Or,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So I think
definitely.
reciprocity is just a huge, huge thing that we have to think about. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Umi.
Yeah, no, I feel like, that is why we treat everything like it owes us something, and
Yeah.
it
And
doesn't.
everybody.
And everybody, yeah, everybody owes us something, everything owes us something. And when it comes to, like you said, picking that apple off of that tree, thank it.
If nothing else, right?
If you can't do anything else, thank it. You know, um, I know a lot of people don't say grace anymore. And that is, and I, for the longest time, was really bad about that. And because it wasn't instilled in me young. So it wasn't something that I was used to doing. And then, as I got older and I got more into this and this spirituality thing, I started, oh yeah, I should be. And I got into gardening. That was it. It was like that first tomato that came up that I posted, like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, you get so excited, but you need to carry that excitement with you always. It's a miracle that you are given these things freely. They give these things freely, you know? And in abundance. And we have the audacity to go, ew, that one is not perfectly round. Oh, that one's got a bruise on it or a bump on it. Yeah. When you start growing your own, trust me, you use every last bit of it.
I know that's
And that's
right.
the beauty of having a compost pile and chickens, because you can recycle it back into the earth. You can feed it back to her. That's part of that reciprocity, is not scraping your plate into the trash. You know, if you have animals that can be fed that, and that's the benefit I have to say I have of having chickens, or living in farm areas, is that you can, you have pigs, you have chickens, you have all these things that can just eat the things that we don't eat. And what a beautiful, instance of reciprocity, to be able to not have waste, to not have wasted Mother Earth, to continue to give her back to herself. I mean, that's what happens when we die. We give Mother Nature back the cells and the atoms and the things that we borrowed to build this human, right? And we give it back. You know, yeah, we have to give back. If there's you give it water, give it, if there's bugs on it that shouldn't be there, get them off. You know what I mean? Learn. This is where, if you're learning, listening to it, you're learning about it, you're having reverence for it, the reciprocity should come easily, because you'll know what it needs. The soil, you have to pay attention to it so that you can have that reciprocity. It will give and give and give every season. It will grow you some more vegetables, more plants, you know, but are you giving it what it needs? Because this is how our vegetables are not full of nutrients anymore. When you go to the store, those vegetables don't have the same nutrients that vegetables that come out of your garden have. They really just don't. You know, when you grow it yourself and that soil is full of nutrients, the food is full of nutrients. When it's grown in a sterile environment, I mean, this is not to say anything about hydroponics, because I do think that hydroponics can be good and they can be done well. But, sometimes they get bare minimum of what they need just to grow and look pretty. And food is not always about what's pretty, you know? And it's not just food. Think about flowers. I grow sunflowers because I love sunflowers. I grow all kinds of flowers just because I love to have flowers. And when I go out there to pick a bouquet, I ask the plant first, is it all right if I take this? Like, and I've literally gotten a feeling that, like, no, leave that one. Don't touch that one. And then I look around and I see something that's more ready to be, snipped and brought inside, and saving seeds. Saving seeds is a beautiful act of reciprocity, because saving those seeds means that you can make sure that they get planted again, and that plant has an opportunity to live on, you know. There's so many different ways, but I think just approaching nature like we would want someone to approach us who we were asking, you know what I mean? You want that same reciprocity. You don't want to give of yourself and not receive. You get depleted that way. And that is really what's happening to our world, is that the human reciprocity to the earth has been lacking. We are not giving it what it needs, but we're taking more than we give. And, that's not honoring the earth. That's not, our next point, living with reverence. We're not seeing earth as sacred. We're not seeing her worth and her beauty, and we're not appreciating it, you know? We're acting like badass kids, okay? That's what I'm gonna say.
No, for real. Like she owes us. Yeah,
Like she owes
right?
us something, right?
Like,
And she doesn't. She allowed us to live here. She allowed us um to essentially be parasites, you know? And I say this all the time, if we don't start taking care of her, she's gonna shake us off. Just like a dog will shake off the fleas.
oh my,
She gonna get rid of us. So,
it's
we have
just
to take care of
important.
her. And it's only right, that we take care of her because she is taking care of us. And, I'm using she and her and because that's how I refer to Earth. I don't want anybody to feel any kind of way about that either. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah. Thank you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that we are in an over consumption society. We don't take just what we need. We overfish, over crab, over the people who eat meat, over slaughter, over you know what I mean. Everything is over, over, over. We're not listening to nature. We are not, and so because we are over consuming and taking more than we need, we are I feel like it's making us not just disconnected with nature, disconnected with each other. It's disconnecting us from ourselves because
Mhm.
let me tell you something. When you eat and or when you overeat, you can't hear yourself really. Your gut doesn't speak to you in the way that it should. Your intuition doesn't guide you in the way that it should because it's too bogged down with food. you
Yep.
know it's too bogged
Yeah.
down. So if you can't hear yourself, of course you can't hear me, and you can't hear Mother Nature.
Right.
like what are we
Right.
doing? you know
Yeah. How can you listen to your gut when it's mouth is full?
so, all clogged up. Oh, for real. you know
Yeah,
so
you can't hear spirit speak, and it does speak to us through our gut. Like that's,
yeah,
you know, definitely where it comes from. So, and we're
yeah.
just bogged down with all of this yuck that they took real food and broke it down into its parts and then put things back together, which yeah,
Terrible.
terrible.
Terrible. And to some degree it happens for different reasons. I know I realized one day that my aunt was like overfeeding my daughter, and I was like, don't feed her too much. And she's like, oh, if you feed her, she's gonna go lay down, she's gonna go be. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she kept doing it, and my daughter, I mean, she doesn't overeat now, but for a while she was like, I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, no. And that's like a manipulation kind of like tactic like old people would use. Like, oh, give her a bottle, put rice in it, and when before her body can even process it, put rice in her bottle so she'll go to sleep and leave me alone. Like,
Right.
what y'all doing?
Right.
So that's just a whole
Yeah.
side note. But it just goes to show that people know what it does, but they still do it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And they don't
Yeah.
think about the future effects on it. It's just like, listen, I just want you to leave me alone right now. I
Hmm.
don't care if you're like if you have an eating disorder when you're 16 and you
Right.
feel some type of way about your weight. I don't care about
Right.
that. I just
Right.
want you to go sit down now.
Right.
So I think just like overconsumption in different ways and like forcing it not just on ourselves but on these children, like we really got to get back in tune.
Yeah.
And we're winding down, but really quick, I did want to just run through, what relationship with nature and through our oneness and spirit will look like. We'll go from observer to participant. We practice presence instead of productivity. We learn to listen. We honor reciprocity. we live with reverence, we get in alignment with nature's rhythms.
Mhm.
We care for creation as an expression of love and not just duty or like you said, like out of uh, uh, um, I forgot the word now, but you know what I mean. Or taking it for granted. Like there's an
Mhm.
expression of love there. We start to see spirit everywhere. You start to see spirit in the leaves and the trees and the birds, and it just becomes really beautiful. And finally, we remember that we belong. We remember that we
Yes.
belong here because
Yep.
nature it does something to you. It makes you come alive from the inside out.
Mhm.
And we come back to that oneness, that truth, that understanding that we are not separate from the divine. We are not separate from each other, and most importantly, we are no longer separate from ourselves.
Right.
That's
Right.
the most important thing, is to get back connected with ourselves. Everything that we have going on around us is disconnecting us from ourselves, and we have to fight to get back to that because they're swinging us every which way right now, you know
Mhm.
and we just can't have this. For
Yeah.
what? For money that comes and goes, that's made up.
Right. Right.
All right, well, anything, Umi?
Yeah, I just think, everything that we're talking about today, and you were just talking about money, nature gives to us freely, and we need to do the same to nature, to each other. And we're not talking about money, and we're not talking about love. We can love on each other for free. It doesn't have to cost anything, you know. It's not about putting yourself out, to help someone else, but showing kindness and compassion and doing when you can and not overdoing so that you're taking care of yourself too, knowing that balance. I think nature is a beautiful teacher of balance, so get out there, connect with something. If all you can do is get yourself a little house plant and keep that little house plant alive, do it. Have a conversation with that plant, give it a name. Ask it what its name is.
Right.
you know and yeah, that's all I have. I just want to say thank you to all of our classmates. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. This has been a really great episode. We appreciate you all. We love you all. And yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, everyone. This has been Earth School Journey, where life is life is the curriculum and experience is the teacher. We will see you all next time. Peace.
Peace.